It is necessary to notice further that these localizations or brains in beings serve not only as apparatuses for the transformation of corresponding cosmic substances for the purposes of the most great common cosmic trogo-auto-egocrat, but also as the means for beings whereby their conscious self-perfecting is possible. This later aim depends upon the quality of the presence of the being impulsacri, concentrated or, as is otherwise said, deposited upon the said corresponding being brains. Concerning the qualities of being impulsacri, there is among the direct commandments of our all-embracing endlessness even a special commandment, which is very strictly carried out by all three-brain beings of our great universe, and which is expressed in the following words: always guard against such perceptions as may soil the purity of your brains. Three-brain beings have the possibility personally to perfect themselves because in them there are localized three centers of their common presence, or three brains, upon which afterwards, when the process of Jarklam proceeds in the omnipresent Okidanok, the three holy forces of the sacred Triyamazi Kamno are deposited and acquire the possibility for their further, this time, independent actualizings. Just in this is the point, that the beings having this three-brain system can, by the conscious and intentional fulfilling of Being-Partkdolg duty, utilize from this process of Jarklam in their omnipresent Okidanok its three holy forces for their own presences, and bring their presences to what is called the Sekro-Nul-Natzanian state, that is to say, they can become such individuals as have their own sacred law of Triyamazi Kamno, and thereby the possibility of consciously taking in and coding in their common presence all that wholly which incidentally also aids the actualizing of the functioning in these cosmic units of objective or divine reason. But the great terror of it, my boy, lies just in this, that although in those three-brain beings who have interested you and who breed on the planet Earth, there arise and are present in them, up to the time of their complete destruction, these three independent localizations or three being brains, through which separately all the three holy forces of the sacred Triyamazi Kamno, which they might also utilize for their own self-perfecting, are transformed and go for further corresponding actualizations, yet, chiefly on account of the irregular conditions of ordinary being existence established by them themselves, these possibilities beat their wings in vain. It is interesting to note that the said being brains are found in the same parts of the planetary body of these three-brain beings who arise on the planet Earth as in us, namely, 1. The brain predetermined by great nature for the concentration and further actualizing of the first holy force of the sacred Triyamazi Kamno, called the Holy Affirming, is localized and found in the head. The second brain, which transforms and crystallizes the second holy force of the sacred Triyamazi Kamno, namely, the Holy Denying, is placed in their common presences, also as in us, along the whole of their back in what is called the spinal column. 3. But as regards the place of concentration and source for the further manifestation of the third holy force of the sacred Triyamazi Kamno, namely the Holy Reconciling, the exterior form of this being brain in the three-brain beings there bears no resemblance whatever to ours. It must be remarked that in the primordial three-brain beings there, this said being brain was localized in the same part of their planetary body as in us, and had an exterior form exactly similar to our own, but for many reasons which you will be able to understand for yourself during the course of my further talks, great nature was compelled little by little to regenerate this brain and to give it the form which it now has in the contemporary beings. This being brain in the contemporary three-brain beings there is not localized in one common mass, as is proper to the presences of all the other three-brain beings of our great universe, but is localized in parts according to what is called specific functioning, and each such part is localized in a different place of their whole planetary body. But although, in its exterior form, this being center of theirs has now variously placed concentrations, nevertheless all its separate functionings are correspondingly connected with each other, and so that the sum total of these scattered parts can function exactly as in general it is proper for it to function. They themselves call these separate localizations in their common presence nerve nodes. It is interesting to notice that most of the separate parts of this being brain are localized in them, just in that place of their planetary body where such a normal being brain should be, namely in the region of their breast. And the totality of these nerve nodes in their breast they call the solar plexus. And so, my boy, the process of Jartglom in the omnipresent Okidinok proceeds in the presence of each of these favorites of yours, and in them also all its three holy forces are blended independently with other cosmic crystallizations and go for the corresponding actualizations, but as, chiefly owing to the already mentioned abnormal conditions of being existence gradually established by them themselves, they have entirely ceased to fulfill Being-Partkdolg duty, then, in consequence of this, none of those holy sources of everything existing, with the exception of the denying source alone, is transubstantiated for their own presences. The crystallizations arising in their presences from the first and from the third holy forces go almost entirely for the service only of the common cosmic trogo-auto-egocratic process, while for the coding of their own presences there are only the crystallizations of the second part of the omnipresent Okidinok, namely of the holy denying, and hence it is that the majority of them remain with presences consisting of the planetary body alone, and thus are, for themselves, destroyed forever.